I stood by Lin Shen's side as he transformed from a struggling, insecure scholarship student into a sought-after tech mogul. 7 days before our engagement, his childhood sweetheart came to him and said, Shen, my mother is ill, her only wish is to see me get married. Even a few of his oldest friends joined in, trying to persuade him, Brother Shen, Xiao Xiao is like a little sister to all of us. Please, just help her out this once, it's just a ceremony, I'm sure sister-in-law won't mind. If they really wanted to be together, they would have been together long ago. Back when we played house as kids, Shen Ji and Xiao Xiao were always the married couple. Everyone should just treat it as a bit of fun. Lin Shen was silent for a moment, then turned to look at me. I remember we booked that hotel for the whole day. Let's just postpone the engagement ceremony until the evening. I kept my eyes downcast and said nothing. Lin Shen didn't realize that 7 days could actually change everything, like calling off an engagement, like accepting my advisor's suggestion to go abroad for further studies, like cutting all ties and becoming complete strangers. It was early spring, but Lin Shen's words felt like a bucket of ice water dumped over my head. Despite the warmth of the private room, I couldn't help but shiver. Once he gave his consent, almost everyone in the room breathed a sigh of relief. I told you Brother Shen would never turn Xiao Xiao down. Yeah, Xiao Xiao was even too nervous to ask Brother Shen this time, saying she turned you down way too harshly back then. Don't be sad, Xiao Xiao. With Brother Shen helping you, everything will work out. Enough talk, let's all raise a glass to Brother Shen. Xiao Lu rose gracefully, picking up the cup from the table. Thank you, Ashen, and you too, Miss Xia. She cast a fleeting glance in my direction before downing the drink in one go. I sat there in a daze, my mind completely blank. The man I'm supposed to get engaged to in a week is marrying someone else first. Seeing that I didn't react, Xiao Lu put her cup down in a huff, a note of irritation in her voice. Miss Xia, I know this must be uncomfortable for you, but it's my mother's dying wish. If you're not willing, just pretend I never came to see Lin Shen. I looked up at her, somewhat confused. What's wrong with any of the others? Why does it have to be Lin Shen? The lively atmosphere that had just returned instantly turned cold. Lin Shen's face fell right along with it. Us, the few of us, sis-in-law, you don't know, people get married early back where we're from, out of all the guys, except for Zhao Yao and Lin Shen. Everyone's already married. Then why can't it be Zhao Yao? I couldn't help but cut him off. Lin Shen is getting engaged in a few days too. Don't mock me, sis. Brother Shen is a real catch. How could I ever compare? Weren't you eager to marry him yourself? Zhao Yao put down his chopsticks, his tone dripping with sarcasm as if I had deliberately insulted him. Enough, Xia Yang. Focus on preparing for the engagement these next few days. Lin Shen slammed his glass down, splashing wine onto my white dress. This dress was the birthday gift he gave me when I turned 24. He bought it with the first real money he ever made. Frowning, he said in a low voice, as for my wedding with Xiao Xiao, she's pressed for time and probably can't book a venue on such short notice. We'll just have it at the same hotel where we got engaged. Our engagement ceremony has been postponed until this evening. I looked at Lin Shen, and a sudden sense of disorientation washed over me. The person I've known, fallen for, and loved since we were 19, the one who, fresh out of college, was so determined to build a home with me. The one who cried like a child just 6 months ago when I said yes to his proposal. How could he agree to marry another girl today, even if this wedding is just a sham, too? I made up a flimsy excuse to step out and clear my head. It wasn't until I was in the elevator that I realized, in my haste, I'd even forgotten my bag. When I got back to the private room's door, I could just hear the sound of conversation from inside. Look, Shen, I'm telling you this as a brother. And I have to say it even if the timing's off. Xia Yang's temper is just no good. If Xiao Xiao had agreed to be with you back then, what chance would Xia Yang have ever had? She's dull and can't think on her feet. Ah, come on, you know how it was, back then. It was only because she looked about 70 or 80% like Xiao Xiao, and Shen had just been rejected by her. How are they even alike? Our Xiao Xiao is so smart and considerate. If she were the one by Shen's side now, she'd definitely be the perfect supportive partner for him. Plus, I heard Xia Yang is just coasting through school on her parents' reputation and doesn't understand a thing about Shen's business. I'm telling you, you two should just get married for real. Forget the whole fake marriage idea, just tie the knot already. This Xia Yang is completely unnecessary. Alright, that's enough from both of you. Seeing that Lin Shen remained silent, Xiao Lu reluctantly spoke up. Aishan has a soft heart. Miss Xia has been by his side for so many years. Even if he doesn't love her anymore, he would never abandon her. Even if the love fades, I won't abandon you. I took a deep breath, trying to calm myself down. After what felt like an eternity, I finally heard Lin Shen's voice, softly, with a touch of weary acceptance. What's in the past is in the past. Qiao Qiao deserves someone better. You deserve someone better. What a sincere blessing. I slowly released the door handle and turned to leave the hotel. Every single word spoken in the private room echoed in my ears. If it weren't for today, if it weren't for this unexpected turn of events, just 7 days before my engagement, I can hardly believe that the person who embodied all my beautiful dreams of marriage would make me re-evaluate our relationship in this way. Do I have regrets? How could I not feel regret? After all, that was the person I loved with all my courage and sincerity. With my whole heart, all the thoughtful surprises I prepared for Lin Shen, and the times my vision blurred with tears from the heartache of seeing him work late into the night, those moments will never come again. A loud rumble sounded nearby, and the rain began to fall in a sudden, heavy downpour. So it can thunder this time of year too. I aimlessly found a place to take shelter from the rain. The space under the eaves was packed with people caught without an umbrella. My phone buzzed softly. It was a message from Lin Shen. They've had a bit too much to drink. I'm going to take them back to get some rest first. Go and deal with the hotel situation right away. And don't let your parents find out about this. Xiao Lu and the others wouldn't have come to me unless they were truly desperate. Try not to take it too personally. I turned off my phone and stared at the traffic jam that had already clogged the road. Suddenly, I remembered back in my sophomore year during military training, when I got caught in a sudden downpour on my way back to the dorm. All my roommates were in the shower, and I couldn't reach a single one of them. I could only shield my head and run for it. Just as I passed the library entrance, someone suddenly stepped in front of me. I looked up abruptly, and there stood the most taciturn top student from the software school, holding an umbrella right in front of me. Is something wrong? Perhaps from the rain. My voice trembled slightly. He held the umbrella, shielding me completely while most of his own body was getting drenched. If you don't have an umbrella, you should find somewhere to take shelter first. It's fine to wait for the rain to stop before you go. I scratched my head and gave an awkward smile. But what if it doesn't stop? How long would I have to wait? He held up his phone and gave it a little shake, a rare smile appearing on his face. Then take down my number. I'll come and get you. Around that time, there were already whispers at school that Lin Shen had a thing for me. He always chose to sit right behind me in our elective classes. During roll call, he'd always save my name for last whenever I was late. He never missed a single performance I was in, leaving right after it ended. But I've always felt that if a guy doesn't say he likes you, then he doesn't. I don't know where the courage came from. But I suddenly wanted a clear answer. Lin Shen, do you like me? He stared at me, a glimmer of light dancing in his eyes. So, can I pursue you? I stared at him, dumbstruck, my palms slick with sweat. I often wonder when exactly I fell for Lin Shen. Maybe it wasn't because he could answer any teacher's question in class with such effortless eloquence, nor was it because he could casually score the highest points on the basketball court, even in a white dress shirt. Nor was it when I missed a class, and everyone else had already formed their groups, leaving me alone. That was when he offered to be my partner. It was that day, when the sunset was particularly beautiful, and I saw his name appear on the honor roll. I didn't hurry ahead. Instead, I took out my phone and snapped a picture of him, wondering what excuse I could use to share it with him. When Sainan first found out that Lin Shen and I were together, he was a bit surprised, but in the end, he just scoffed. Xia Yang, don't take your first relationship too seriously. There are plenty of fish in the sea, but there's only one Lin Shen. I tilted my head, the words hopeless romantic practically written all over my face. Sainan didn't hesitate to give me a light thump on the head. For heaven's sake, young lady, you're one of a kind too. Yeah, I'm not a stand-in for anyone. I'm a unique existence too. 3. The icy rain lashed against my face, mingling with my tears as it trickled down my neck. My phone buzzed again. It was Zhao Yao. he sent me a video, along with a message. "See, you're kind of unnecessary, aren't you?" In the dimly lit carriage, Xiaolu leaned against Lin Shen, the corners of her eyes red and swollen. "Asian, what should I do? What on earth am I supposed to do?" Lin Shen gently stroked her head, soothing her in a soft voice. "Don't be afraid, I'll be right here with you, we'll face any difficulty together. But you're getting engaged, you're going to be engaged to someone else, you won't care about me anymore, you don't want me anymore, I would never abandon you, you've had too much to drink." They seemed to have deliberately left the back row seats for Lin Shen and Xiaolu, giving them space to share their heartfelt feelings. I pressed a hand to my chest and took a deep, forceful breath, the icy air stinging my windpipe. Xiaolu nuzzled against Lin Shen's neck in a coquettish manner and fell silent. Lin Shen's eyes widened in surprise, but he didn't push her away. One by one, everyone taking shelter from the rain had someone come with an umbrella for them. Only I was left waiting for the rain to stop. The seasons may cycle, and the rain will surely fall again, but I know the sincere heart offered in that downpour has long since been washed of its color. I took out my phone and called the hotel manager, who also happens to be my best friend. "Nan, please cancel the engagement ceremony for me. Cancel the engagement." I opened my mouth, finding it difficult even to speak. "Yes, Lin Shen wants to marry someone else first." The other end of the line suddenly went silent. The next second, Sainan spoke calmly. "Where are you? I'll come pick you up." The flashy pink sports car glided smoothly to a stop in front of me. The moment I got in, Sainan started yelling, "I told you men are no good. I told you, but you just had to go for it anyway. What's so great about Lin Shen besides his face? Fetching you warm water, buying you barbecue in the middle of the night. Anyone can do those things. It's not exactly a rare talent. You, on the other hand, seem like the rare one. Getting all worked up over such low-effort gestures. If you like handsome guys, I'll take you to find some male models tonight. We'll get 8 or 10 of them, obedient, sensible, and they won't cheat on you. What's the big deal? It's just a bit of money. Honey, I've got plenty of that." The corner of my mouth twitched as I said calmly, "Right, forget about Lin Shen, have the hotel arrange a wedding for them. Why turn down money that's practically handed to us? As for my engagement ceremony, just cancel it." Sainan glanced at me, looking uneasy. "Do your parents know? My dad said your grandfather and uncle are already getting ready to leave." "I know, after watching the video Zhao Yaro sent. I called them right away. They're always so level-headed. If you discover you're not a good match before the wedding, just treat it as a celebration in itself." I didn't sleep a wink all night. Lin Shen hasn't reached out to me either. He didn't come home, so of course he wouldn't have noticed I was gone. As for where he spent the whole night, I suppose that's none of my business anymore. I clicked on my advisor's profile picture. The last message was a long, earnest lecture from him, urging me to go abroad for further studies. He said he could recommend me to the best labs in the world for this field, if I was still interested in pursuing research. I replied to him earnestly, "All right, I'll do my best not to let you down." My supervisor quickly made the arrangements for me. The professor was an old acquaintance of his. The flight was booked for 6 days later, coinciding with Lin Shen and Xiaolu's wedding day. When I got back to the apartment the next day, Lin Shen still wasn't home. I sorted through all my things, one by one, deciding what to keep and what to throw away. For such a large apartment, by the time I was done, all I had left was a single small suitcase. I have even less stuff now than when I moved in 3 months ago. I took out the watch from the cabinet. The one I bought to wear for my engagement, one for Lin Shen, and one for me, but I never got the chance to give it to him. "Miss Xia, didn't you just buy this a few days ago? Is it that your husband isn't too fond of it?" The shop assistant's eyes widened, worried I was unhappy with her service. "We have other styles available. Would you like to take a look?" I shook my head. "No, that's all right. Please help me return it." The assistant looked at me somewhat apologetically. "But I'm afraid the free return period has passed. You might incur a partial loss." "It's okay. Sunk costs should not factor into major decisions." The mall was bustling. As I passed by a jewelry store, I suddenly heard a familiar voice, tinged with a hint of smugness. "Get whatever you like." It was Lin Shen's voice. Xiaolu lowered her gaze slightly, staring at the jewelry in the cabinet, lost in thought. "Ah Shen, this is just a marriage of convenience. Even though we bought the 5 golds to show my mother, following tradition, I won't be taking them. What will you do with all this later? Lin Shen smiled and signaled the sales assistant to take out all the gold pieces. Xie Yang can use them when she gets married, they won't go to waste. As he was helping Xiaolu pick out a gold bracelet, he turned his head and spotted me by the door, a flicker of panic flashing in his eyes. Yang, what are you doing here? He started walking towards me. I casually gestured to the side, the lie coming easily, just here to grab a bite to eat. Lin Shen let out a soft sigh of relief and affectionately patted my head. Just tell me what you want to buy, no matter how busy the company gets. I can't let my wife go hungry. I glanced at Xiaolu, who was trying on a gold bracelet, and said nothing. Lin Shen explained to me with considerable patience. The marriage custom where I'm from is for the groom to buy the 5 golds for the bride. Since we're putting on this act, we might as well go all the way. That's why I brought Xiao Xiao out to look at gold jewelry. Oh, right. I also need to make time to accompany Xiao Xiao for her wedding dress fittings tomorrow or the day after. The engagement arrangements should be fine, right? Give me a call if you run into any problems you can't handle. I shook my head. It's nothing. There really isn't a problem. After all, the engagement is off. Perhaps I was being too calm. Lin Shen was taken aback for a moment, his expression darkening. Yang, are you upset? We agreed to say things directly, not make the other person guess. No, I met his gaze openly. You were just helping your sister. Why would I be upset? Lin Shen frowned slightly, searching my face for any trace of a lie. Unfortunately, there was none. Xiaolu looked up and met my gaze when she heard this, then said flatly, well, I'll thank Miss Xie in advance then. Her expression held no trace of gratitude. If anything, it seemed to suggest she felt entitled to it. I ignored her and made up a quick excuse. I have something to take care of back at the university. You two enjoy your shopping. Time was running out for me to prepare my study abroad application materials. 5. With just 4 days left before my trip abroad, it suddenly hit me, my passport was still in Lin Shen's study, just 2 weeks ago. We were talking about finding time for a trip to France after we got engaged. The moment I stepped out of the elevator, I saw the apartment door wide open, with Xiaolu inside, decorating the place all by herself. The oversized double happiness character in the living room was painfully glaring. All the photos of Lin Shen and me had been thrown on the floor, even the matching mugs we made together in college, printed with our pictures, were now lying quietly in the trash can. Sorry. I thought you didn't live here anymore. Xiaolu's words were an apology, but her expression held not a trace of remorse for having done anything wrong. On the contrary, she looked as if it were perfectly justified. Just because I don't live here, does that give you the right to throw my things away? I looked at her, puzzled. She frowned impatiently, as if I had disturbed her. It's just a marriage of convenience. Don't be so sensitive. If we leave these things here, my mom will find them. Please understand, I don't want to cause any trouble for you. Xiaolu was still holding a photo frame containing a picture that Sai Nan had taken of Lin Shen proposing to me. I thought it was the photo of my life, so I even bought a special frame for it. Crack. Xiaolu gently let go, and the frame fell to the floor, the glass shattering instantly. That scared me to death. This frame is way too heavy. What was that noise? What's going on? A noisy group of people came bustling in from outside. But they fell silent the moment they saw me. Oh, sis, you're back. Shinji will be here in a bit. We rang the bell but no one answered, so we just used the code to let ourselves in. Well, you see, Xiao Xiao's mom is going to stop by the house for a bit before heading to the hotel, so we figured we should still set things up a little. Don't you worry, sis, we'll get it all sorted out for you. Good as new, I promise. I looked at Xiaolu, suddenly curious. If Lin Shen didn't have any money, would you still have come to him for this marriage of convenience? You keep saying you don't want to be a burden, but every word and action of yours is nothing but trouble for others. The living room was utterly silent, so quiet you could hear the ticking of the wall clock. The people present exchanged uneasy glances, as if they hadn't expected me to get angry. For a moment, no one dared to speak. Xiaolu bit her lower lip stubbornly, as if deeply insulted. If it weren't for my mother, do you think I'd just stand here and let you bully me? Tears fell from her eyes, one by one, a sight that was utterly heartbreaking. Sis, what are you doing? We had an agreement. Exactly. Right after Shen and Xiao Xiao get their marriage license and have the ceremony, they'll go straight to file for divorce. I wondered if I had misheard, raising my voice slightly. A marriage license? Yeah, hasn't Shen told you yet? Xiao Xiao has an aunt who works at the Civil Affairs Bureau. She's always competing with her mom, and as soon as she heard Xiao Xiao was getting married, she went to check on the guy. If they don't have a marriage certificate, her mom will definitely get suspicious. So, don't worry, sis, once the wedding's over, they'll get a divorce right away. We'll give you back our Shen. Safe and sound, getting a marriage license, getting married, then getting divorced. His life sure is turning out to be a complete package. Zhao Yao shot me an impatient look. Xie Yang, what are you so upset about? We all heard from Ashen that he's about to sign a huge contract in a few days. You should be thanking your lucky stars you found someone as good as Ashen in this lifetime. Where we come from, loyalty to friends is everything. There's no way you could ever ask him to abandon Xiao Xiao. You've already gotten such a sweet deal out of this. Don't make things difficult for Ashen now. I couldn't help but scoff. What sweet deal? How have I ever bullied you? Xiaolu, am I not the only real victim in this whole mess? If your idea of loyalty means treating marriage like a joke, that's not how we do things here. Xie Yang, they're my friends. Before I could finish, Lin Shen stood at the door and coldly cut me off. The look in his eyes was utterly disappointed. They're just a few photos. We can always retake them. As for getting the marriage certificate, you know the whole story better than anyone, so there's really no point in dwelling on it. You have to understand, if it weren't for Xiaolu, I cut him off coldly. If it weren't for her, you never would have pursued me in the first place. Is that it? We never would have been together at all, right? It was already April. For heaven's sake. The living room was bathed in warm, golden sunlight, yet, a chill ran through my entire body. Hearing Lin Shen speak the truth with his own voice, and hearing it with my own ears, was a cruelty I had never imagined. Xie Yang, I don't want to fight with you. Go back to school and cool off first. I'll come pick you up later. I walked straight to the study and took my passport. Go to hell. 6. The elevator was taking a while, so I stood outside the door a little longer. Maybe we should just forget it. Xiao Lu's voice drifted softly from the living room. A single, cold tear traced its way down her cheek as she whispered, "You have to manage Miss Xia's feelings, and tomorrow you have to come with me to see my mom. It's just too much. Why does my mom have to torture me like this? Why does she insist she can't trust anyone else with it? Only you." Zhao Yao patted Xiao Lu's shoulder cautiously. Auntie watched Shen Ji grow up, so of course she trusts him the most. Don't blame yourself. Lin Shen's voice was soft and low, just like when he usually comforts me. It's okay, Auntie is just worried about you. Anyway, if we can help a little now, that's what matters, as long as Auntie is happy. But what about sister-in-law? Xie Yang doesn't lose her temper often. She's probably just overwhelmed lately, juggling graduation preparations and wedding plans. I'll go talk to her and explain things once we're done here, Lin Shen said with feigned nonchalance, trying to steer their attention away from the recent unpleasantness. Ah, I see, Brother Shen really knows his fiancée best. Yeah, we were worried she might give you a hard time later. Feel sorry for him. I'd say she's head over heels for him. Ha ha ha, the others chimed in agreement. Getting married right after graduation. If it were any other woman, I'd really look down on it. She hasn't achieved any sense of self-worth at all. Xiao Lu's delicate brows furrowed slightly. Her tone laced with a hint of disdain. Some people aspire to be stay-at-home wives. Do you think everyone is like you, dreaming of holding up the sky all by themselves? Xiao Lu lifted her delicate chin like a proud swan. We, the leading ladies, must be independent and self-reliant. The living room was once again filled with laughter and cheerful conversation. The secretary who had been following Lin Shen couldn't help but speak up to remind him, "Mr. Lin, about Miss Xia, what if?" After a long pause, Lin Shen finally spoke slowly. "No, she wouldn't dare. I'll make it up to her properly once this matter is settled." I forced a smile, but as I did, tears began to roll down my cheeks for no reason I could name. So, in Lin Shen's eyes, I would cling to this 6-year relationship simply because it was on the verge of a happy ending. I would stay because the news of our impending engagement was already public knowledge. I would stay because I was afraid I couldn't find anyone better, too scared to break up with him. He had even planned out how to make it up to me afterwards. how to win back my favor. But the one thing he never considered was that I wouldn't be going through with the engagement. A lifetime holds many 6-year chapters. As long as I'm living well myself, I can afford to ignore what others think. As for Lin Shen, if it weren't for the fact that I loved him, I could have married men 1,000 times better than him. 7. After helping Xiao Lu arrange all the wedding details, Lin Shen finally realized I hadn't been home for days. He drove to the school and stood under the tree by the dormitory entrance, silhouetted against the light, his refined, scholarly face still turned quite a few heads. Only when he saw me approaching down the tree-lined path did the stern expression on his face soften into a slight smile. Are you really that upset? Holding the freshly signed documents for studying abroad, I lowered my gaze and shook my head. Lin Shen pressed his fingers to his temples, looking utterly exhausted. Yang, I've been so tired these past few days, and there's a lot going on at the company. If you're upset, you have to tell me, I'll make it up to you. There's nothing of yours left at home, not a single piece of your clothing is in the wardrobe. I looked up at him, my expression unchanged. There's really not much to do for the engagement anyway, since the university is pressing for the thesis. I just brought a few things back to campus to change into. Wasn't it you who said we have to commit to the act? Leaving clothes hanging in the wardrobe would be too easy to discover. Lin Shen stared at me for a few seconds. Only when he saw not a trace of guilt in me did he speak. I knew you wouldn't just leave me. Yang, I'm just so worried about you, worried about me. I tried to force a smile, but I just couldn't manage it. Oh, by the way, where's that dress of yours? I remember it got a little dirty that day. Let me wash it for you. He was still wearing that same gentle, considerate expression. But it just made me sick. It's gone. Lin Shen's brow furrowed abruptly. Gone? How? Wasn't that your most treasured dress? I don't want it anymore. Lin Shen's lips parted, his tone softening as if to placate me. It's all right, sweetheart, whatever you say goes. We'll just buy another one next time. I lowered my head and said nothing more. His gaze slowly drifted to the papers in my hands. Don't overwork yourself. Take good care, okay? If you can finish this thesis, great. If not, forget it. I'll take care of you for the rest of our lives. What a vicious curse, I thought to myself. The phone rang at just the right moment. Lin Shen answered the call and hurried off. After coming to me for confirmation, he seemed much more at ease. He can go back to being busy with his sham wedding. Actually, Sainan had already called and told me that Lin Shen had just been to see her that afternoon to confirm the engagement procedures. She handled it with ease. Mr. Lin, we will certainly do our utmost to make your engagement ceremony a success. You can rest assured, leave it all to me. I have a feeling Sainan won't let him off the hook. 8. The day before I left, I was packing my bags. One unfamiliar text message after another kept appearing on my phone. They were all photos of Xiao Lu in a wedding dress. Miss Xia, which wedding dress do you think I should wear tomorrow? Even though the wedding is fake, it's true that Lin Shen once had feelings for me, and it's also true that he meticulously prepared this wedding for me. To be honest, I really don't think much of you. You want to rely on a man for the rest of your life right after graduation. I couldn't even be bothered to open the pictures. I replied, Miss Chow, you were already married in college. You shouldn't need to ask me which wedding dress suits you better. As for relying on men, Miss Chow married a wealthy man the second time for your mother's sake. Surely she didn't marry a rich guy the first time just for academic credits, did she? I didn't even need to hire someone to dig up this pathetic story about Xiao Lu. She kept preaching about being a strong, independent female lead. Yet she rushed into marriage with a freshly divorced lawyer in her senior year of college. It turned out all his money came from the settlement with his ex-wife, and he couldn't even land a decent case on his own. Xiao Lu simply went ahead and divorced him. But this lawyer suddenly seemed to have wised up, and she couldn't get the better of him at all. Stop being stubborn. Don't you believe that if I just crook my finger, Asian will come running right over? Then why do you need to come and flaunt it in front of me? What exactly are you so afraid of? My phone had been silent for ages, and I could just imagine how livid she must have looked. I let out a scornful snort and blocked the number without a second thought. I remember when we were preparing for the engagement, Lin Shen held me and went on and on about so many things. Like how we shouldn't share a pair in the future, or how it's bad luck for the couple to meet the day before the engagement ceremony. I actually laughed at him, a top student who graduated with a perfect GPA, yet he believes in all this mystical nonsense. But when I saw him show up at my doorstep, I realized that even the beliefs he held so firmly could be broken for Xiaolu. We're both women. Do you have to be so harsh with your words? Xiaolu genuinely wants to be friends with you. That's why she's letting you see her wedding dress. She even had the thoughtful idea of giving you a reference for the future. Lin Shen didn't even bother to check with me. His mind was completely preoccupied with Xiaolu's grievances. I'm 172 centimeters tall, and she's 160. What exactly do I need to take into account? Lin Shen suddenly frowned. Xie Yang, why can't you understand what I'm saying? She just wanted a chance to thank you. I know you don't like her. She's just a bit blunt when she speaks. You should try to get to know her better. If we weren't getting engaged tomorrow, I think we'd need to reconsider this relationship. I looked at his face and suddenly felt like crying. A person has many 6-year stretches in a lifetime. But how could I have spent this one on a man like him? During all those nights I was tearing myself apart. His heart was worried about another girl, seeing that I remained silent. Lin Shen suddenly realized what he had just said. He took a deep breath. Yang, that's not what I meant. You're the one I've chosen for life. I just hope you can accept my friends. They're the ones who stood by me through the hard times. I nodded, acknowledging that I had heard him. I only heard it, that's all. 9. After Lin Shen left, I wandered around the neighborhood alone for a long time. The night breeze was chilly, making my eyes sting. Sai Nan had been standing at the door for who knows how long, waving to me from a distance. What are you spacing out for? I smiled. What brings you here? I'm leaving tomorrow. I had to come and say a proper goodbye today. She pulled me into the convenience store across from our neighborhood and ordered a few skewers of Oden. The street was bustling with people. We sat by the floor-to-ceiling window, listening to the chime of the bell at the door. Xie Yang. Don't hurt yourself over other people's mistakes. And don't torment yourself with endless, agonizing self-reflection day and night. You can't change a rotten person through control and restrictions, nor can you make them change for you with a few words or even years of time together. Don't ever try to turn a guy like that into husband material in the future. You will always deserve the absolute best in my book. How could Sinan not be the person who knows me best? She knows that no one can just walk away from a 6-year relationship without it leaving a mark. Me too. I found out he chose me because the relationship he truly wanted fell apart. Her mother didn't approve of him for being poor. He likes me because I look like Xiaolu. He wants to get engaged because I've been by his side all these years. The fact that it wasn't for who I am, just for me, made the failure more crushing than ever. I was on the very brink of spiraling into endless self-doubt. Thankfully, my life has never revolved solely around Lin Shen. That night, I opened the recommendation letter my mentor had written for me for the first time. She's one of my star students, very mature and diligent. Please give her room to grow and nurture her potential. If she makes a mistake, talk to her gently. Don't scold her. She's come a long way on her own to get here. Sitting at my desk, I felt a surge of courage welling up inside me, enough to carry me through the journey ahead. Early the next morning, I boarded a flight to Country M. The journey was long, but I was lucky to have a sweet, lovely girl sitting next to me. We didn't talk a lot, but the conversation was really pleasant. She's a somewhat well-known blogger, studying at a university abroad, with a boyfriend of 3 years waiting for her back home. I clicked into her account, Lu Jiuyi Deng Yu Qi. That's quite interesting. The plane descended through the clouds and landed gently on the runway. Every breeze I've missed since then has been a necessary farewell. There's no room for regret. Alright, Xiaoyang, I'm heading off now. Let's hang out sometime. I nodded. Okay, take care on your way home. Life in the lab offered no respite, with endless papers and countless data points to tackle every single day. I was so spaced out I didn't even catch what the boss said. Honestly, anyone would go crazy under this deadline pressure. Sinan is always worried that I'll get lost in memories while I'm alone abroad. She's overthinking it. I don't even have time to sleep. After a grueling day in the lab, I was completely drained. All the shops on the street were closed, so I had to go home and cook for myself. The first bite was so awful it nearly brought me to tears. On my occasional breaks, I'd meet up with Jiari, and we'd stroll along the brick-paved road, pumpkin spice lattes in hand. The vintage architecture looked especially pleasant, bathed in the autumn light. I thought it was just a chance encounter, but to my surprise, we became the closest of friends who could talk about anything. Time slipped through my fingers like water, and more than half a year passed in the blink of an eye. I suppose I simply haven't had the time to dwell on those painful memories. To this day, I can't even recall how much that relationship ultimately crushed me. If anything, it's a bit of a shame all that time wasted. 10. After the wedding with Xiaolu, Linshan was making conversation with her parents while keeping his eyes glued to his phone. It started last night. No, actually, it's been a full week now since he last received any message initiated by Xiaoyang. A sudden worry gripped him. He couldn't help but slip his hand free from Xiaolu's arm and stepped into a corner to call Xiaoyang. "We're sorry, the number you have dialed cannot be reached at the moment. Please try your call again later." "We're sorry, the number you have dialed cannot be reached at the moment. Please try your call again later." "We're sorry, the number you have dialed cannot be reached at the moment. Please try your call again later." After 3 consecutive calls went unanswered, he knew something was wrong. Linshan quickly contacted the hotel manager. He didn't dare ask Xia Yang's parents, afraid of raising their suspicions. "No, Miss Xia was just here confirming the details for this evening. Maybe try calling again in a little while." Sainan was editing the wedding video they had just recorded, planning to give Linshan a big surprise that evening. Only then did Linshan feel at ease. "Thank you for all your hard work. It was no trouble at all. As Miss Xia's friend, it was the least I could do." Over the past few days, Linshan had also pulled an all-nighter, sorting through all their photos chronologically based on the timeline of his relationship with Xia Yang. These were all the records on his phone. At first, he admitted that his fondness for Xiaoyang stemmed from Xiaolu. He even took photos from angles that made her look most like Xiaolu. But later, his feelings gradually changed. Xiaoyang was emotionally steady, always speaking and acting in a calm, unhurried, and orderly manner, even when she was late for class. She would walk into the classroom with complete composure. She calmly accepted the fact that being late would come with consequences. Later, she stayed at the university for graduate school, while I chose to start my own business. Whenever he was overwhelmed with anxiety, it was always Xiaoyang who stayed by his side. "It's perfectly fine. You're still so young. It's only natural to take a little longer. See how much more you've done today compared to yesterday. I knew you could do it." Everyone blooms at their own pace. For instance, my advisor praised my junior's thesis, while he asked me not to include his name in my acknowledgements. "Linshan, trust your own instincts and judgment. I know you can do this." And after every business dinner, there would always be medicine she had thoughtfully prepared, waiting in my bag. When I got home, the freshest fruit would be in the fridge, with a cute sticky note on it, "Your daily vitamins." I just mentioned offhand that I didn't want takeout, and she brought a meal from her school all the way to my office. Once this business with Xiaolu is over, I must make it up to her properly. But right up until the engagement ceremony began, he hadn't seen Xiaoyang. Linshan's mind went completely blank. He paced around the banquet hall, over and over. Xiaoyang wasn't there, neither were her family, nor any of her friends. The large screen behind them suddenly lit up, playing the freshly edited video of his wedding with Xiaolu. In the footage, he was beaming with joy, and Xiaolu's smile was even brighter. "Is this the person President Lin married? There's a resemblance, but not quite. Let's take another look. Is this your boss's wife? Doesn't really seem like it. But who am I to say? Who knows when they'll swap her out? Why should a grunt like me care about that? Men are useless." That statement just keeps gaining more and more credibility. Linshan charged into the control room like a madman. "Where's Xiaoyang? Shut it down. Shut it all down. Where is she?" Sainan stood not far away, arms crossed, watching the raving man who had burst in with a cold gaze. "Didn't you just say Xiaoyang came to see you? Didn't you say everything was taken care of?" Linshan remembered Sainan. She was the one who personally came out to assist him when he came to book the hotel that day. Sainan pointed at the large screen still playing the footage. "Everything was arranged, wasn't it? The wedding looks quite lively, doesn't it?" "I'm talking about the evening engagement ceremony." Sainan scoffed coldly. "What decent person gets married at noon and then holds an engagement ceremony in the evening? That thing on your shoulders is a brain, not a decoration. Use it." "Could it be she never intended to come in the first place. He staggered back a couple of steps. So, she never planned on coming at all. Lin Shen looked up, as if realizing something, and bolted out of the hotel. He rushed to Xie Yang's house and rang the doorbell for a long time, but no one answered. It turned out her parents had boarded a flight back to Beijing to visit her grandfather on the very day she went abroad. He kept dialing that familiar number, only to find it was constantly unreachable. It would be the same even if I used someone else's phone. Lin Shen wandered the streets in a daze, having even forgotten where he'd parked his car. He had a sinking feeling that Xie Yang was gone for good. His phone suddenly vibrated. Without even checking the caller ID, he hastily answered. Yang, Ashen, it's me. It was his business partner. We've run into some issues with that shipment to Jingsha. We agreed to discuss a solution once they arrived. But now they're not coming. They're demanding direct compensation, or they'll sue. What happened? They were originally coming for their granddaughter's engagement party. In good spirits, they were willing to negotiate with us again, but the engagement was called off a few days ago. Not only are they not coming now, but they're also refusing to negotiate. Ashen, with the compensation and penalty fees combined, I'm afraid our cash flow won't be able to handle it. How can they be so capricious, just because their granddaughter isn't getting engaged? Lin Shen had only gotten halfway through his sentence when Xie Yang's words echoed in his mind. My father is from Nansha, and my mother is from Jingsha, but I grew up in Nansha. My grandfather and uncle will both be coming for the engagement. 11. When Lin Shen returned home, the decorative double happiness character was still hanging in the living room, not even taken down yet. Xiao Lu sat on the sofa, looking every bit the lady of the house. Seeing Lin Shen return, she quickly stood up and walked over to him with feigned concern. I heard what happened. I'm sorry. I still ended up affecting you both. Xiao Lu had stood up too quickly and bumped into the tote bag on the coffee table. A hospital MRI report from 5 days ago fell out from inside. Lin Shen numbly picked up the report, staring at it for a long moment. 5 days ago. He and Xiao Lu hadn't gotten their marriage license yet. Xiao Lu instinctively snatched the paper back from Lin Shen's hand, saying awkwardly, Oh, I forgot to tell you, it turns out my mom just had a cyst, a blessing in disguise. Right, isn't that right, Ashen? Lin Shen hung his head, lost in thought. Xiao Lu, you did that on purpose. He spoke suddenly, his tone colder than ever before. Ashen, let's go get the divorce papers, or Xie Yang really will leave me for good. Lin Shen grabbed Xiao Lu roughly, his eyes bloodshot. Ashen, where are you going to get a divorce in the middle of the night? The Civil Affairs Bureau isn't even open, and we still have the mandatory cooling-off period. I can't calm down right now. Xiao Lu was so pleased with her bridal makeup today that she rushed to find Lin Shen without even bothering to remove it. Her face was now a mess of tears and sniffles. Ashen, Xie Yang is gone. She's not coming back. Since we're already officially married, let's just build a good life together from now on. I don't need all the formal ceremonies. And now my mother has finally agreed to let us be together. Ashen, seeing Lin Shen stop in his tracks, Xiao Lu thought she had moved him. She gently wrapped her arms around him from behind. Ashen, you focus on earning money, and I'll focus on taking good care of you. I promise I'll make our little home a warm and wonderful place. I can get up at 6 to make soup and cook. Don't you love my soup the most? Xiao Lu, do you realize this is marriage fraud? Lin Shen was camped out at Xie Yang's dormitory door first thing in the morning. Stubble shadowed his jaw, and his tie hung in a messy loop around his neck. Spotting Xie Yang's roommate, he hurriedly rushed after them. Xie Yang, not really sure. I think it's some lab overseas. She didn't go into details with us. You could ask her good friend. I think she runs a hotel or something. She even came to help Xie Yang move. We don't have her phone number, and we wouldn't just give it out without her permission anyway. In a daze, Lin Shen drove to find Xie Yang's good friend, only to discover that her good friend was Sai Nan. Please, just call her for me. Let me explain it to her myself. Standing on the hotel steps, Sinan looked down at him. Come on, man. She changed her number because she doesn't want to hear your excuses, right? Lin Shen fell silent for a moment, then suddenly let out a bitter laugh. I knew I'd get my comeuppance. I just knew it. Why on earth did I agree to a sham marriage? Sinan shot him a look of utter disdain and scoffed. Relax, there won't be any comeuppance. You just need to realize that what you missed was the absolute peak you ever had in your life. A blessing like that, a chance from God, won't come your way a second time. She must have been down on her luck to have gotten tangled up with you in this cursed relationship. While meeting her was the highest point you'll ever reach in your entire life, you two were never meant to cross paths like two parallel lines that should never meet. The truth is, you don't deserve any good woman. Not a single word mentions karma, yet every single line is karma. 12. Another 6 months had passed in the blink of an eye, and I had completely settled into life at the lab. When Sainan mentioned Lin Shun to me again, his company was on the verge of collapse. Even though they were divorced, Xiaolu still hoped to reconcile with him. Yang, you finally decided to come back. I smiled and told her the news that I'd be going back home in a couple of weeks. My mom is nearing retirement, and I'm going back to attend the farewell ceremony her school is holding for her. I just never expected to run into Lin Shun right at the school gate. In just a year, he'd lost a lot of weight, and not a trace of his former spirited confidence remained on his face. His voice was hoarse, his eyes bloodshot. I'm sorry. I know I was wrong. Please, just give me another chance. Okay, I admit I got close to you because of Xiaolu at first, but then I really fell for you. This heart. You really took it with you. That evening, Sainan forwarded me a video. I took 2 steps back, met his gaze, and said calmly, it doesn't matter anymore. Whether you realize your mistake or not, whether you like me or not, it has nothing to do with me now. As for a second chance, some lessons you only need to learn once. If there's nothing else, I'll be going. Yang, after all these years we've shared, don't you think it's a shame to throw it all away? I've already admitted I was wrong. Can't you just let bygones be bygones? Hearing that, I smiled calmly. I've long since let those things go. The only one still holding on to them is you. Lin Shun swayed slightly, his face pale as he opened his mouth, but no words came out. Watching Lin Shun's lingering feelings for me and the company's worsening fortunes, Xiaolu steeled her heart and decided to go all in. She interspersed the text with a few childhood photos, bringing their childhood sweetheart romance to life. They had walked the playful country paths together and weathered the awkward breezes of high school. The golden couple in their friends' eyes, but due to the long-distance separation in college, the male lead got entangled with a wealthy but airheaded socialite. She forced the man she loved to get a divorce, destroyed the company he had painstakingly built from the ground up, and then spent a fortune to gild her resume at some overseas lab. They used my photo in the video, but the blurring was so ineffective it might as well not have been there. We beg you, miss, to give us a way out. Please stop using illegal means to suppress us. All we want is to live ordinary lives. At the end, Xiaolu broke down in tears. A 5-year veteran employee has some inside gossip. Apparently, the boss's daughter stuck with the clueless boss from the ground up. Then, in a video, his childhood sweetheart claimed her mom was sick and asked the boss to fulfill her mom's dying wish. The absolute moron of a boss actually held a wedding ceremony with this woman before his own engagement. Can you believe how insane that is? Ha 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 ha. Talk about life imitating art. So, was her mom actually sick? This has my old company written all over it. Her mom is probably going to outlive that idiot boss. Putting everything else aside, the young miss is paying to get into the most grueling lab. Just listen to yourself. Wow, if even the young miss is working this hard. What right do I have to lie around in the dorm? Someone, carry me to the lab. Does Fumu even know you're building an account like this? Tell me, after watching this video, will it cancel out all the sins I've committed in this lifetime? Xiaolu quickly replied below, but you still have to separate business from personal matters. Relationships are private affairs. How can you let her family use that as an excuse to suppress these small companies? Sis, are you even listening to yourself? So they gave you substandard products, and the other party let it slide out of consideration for their granddaughter, but then you go and cheat on their granddaughter, and they're not supposed to seek justice. Separate business from personal matters. My foot. The one with no morals is suddenly preaching from the moral high ground. If it were me, I'd demand every last penny back. With interest, Lin Shun's company could still manage to secure a few small contracts, buying them a few more months of financial breathing room. But after Xiaolu's outburst, no company, big or small, was willing to work with him anymore. And after that day, Linshan never came looking for me again. I heard he stood outside my building all night. It's just a shame that my parents and I had already left for Beijing that very day. My vacation is short, so I need to see the people who matter most to me. A week later, I boarded the flight back to M country. Life moved forward in its orderly fashion. Despite failure after failure in the lab, I've never lost my curiosity about life or my courage to face it. Amidst countless shipwrecks, one vessel still sails from afar. A year later, I came across a news story on social media. Ex-wife grabs steering wheel, leaves ex-husband seriously injured. The individuals in the video were referred to as Mr. Lin and Mr. Chow, and the car crash scene was quite gruesome. Meanwhile, I was attending a top-tier academic conference, so I didn't look closely and didn't have time to watch it. Right now, the most important thing is, as the only woman at this conference, how I can carve out my own professional identity and make my presence felt, so that everyone can witness the rise of women in this field. I aim to be a guiding star, to be a creeper reaching for the sky. Love is but a corner of life, while self-love should fill my entire existence. May I be spirited and resolute. Story 2. When I proposed divorce, Donald was about to accompany his mistress to the hospital for a prenatal checkup. Seeing that I was serious, he remained silent for a few seconds and then said, "I understand, I crossed the line. Don't worry, I'll agree to any request you make." Others all said that I was lucky. I had been Ms. Gloria for 10 years. Even after the divorce, Donald didn't treat me unfairly. Only I knew that I came to Hong Kong City for him the year I graduated. At the cost of almost breaking off relations with my parents, and only I remembered that he had his 3 ribs broken in order to marry me. Of course, all these things no longer mattered. I looked at Donald and smiled, saying, "Well, then I ask you not to appear in front of me again." The rain was especially heavy tonight. The whole world seemed to be enveloped in an endless curtain of rain. The orange typhoon warning light was flashing at Victoria Harbour, lighting up every 15 seconds to remind everyone to make preparations for disaster prevention. At this moment, the nanny, carrying the packed luggage, said in a low voice, "Madam, the wind outside has subsided a bit. Let's go to the villa. The driver is already waiting in the parking lot." I gave a hum and turned to look at the wall clock. It was almost 10:30. Donald still hadn't come back. He had said that I should wait for him when he left during the day. Now it seemed that I probably wouldn't be able to wait for him. An hour later, the black Lincoln stopped at the villa at the foot of the mountain. As soon as I got out of the car, I saw Donald supporting a girl and walking out. Her belly was slightly rounded, she was wearing flat shoes and a loose-fitting dress, and her eyes were red as if she had been crying. I stood in the rain and looked up, meeting Donald's eyes. The nanny was somehow tripped up and didn't have time to get out of the car to hold an umbrella. Big raindrops poured down. In just a few seconds, most of my hair was already wet. Donald frowned slightly and instinctively let go of the girl, reaching out his hand to cover the top of my head. His broad palm still had some residual warmth, but it was soon soaked through by the rain. "A typhoon is coming soon. Where are you going?" I gently waved away his hand, took a few quick steps to the veranda, and frowned as I asked. Donald didn't answer. Instead, he said to the person waiting beside him, "Send Monica to the hospital first." I understood. No wonder he had dragged it out so late today and was going out at this hour. Presumably, she had pestered him all day with the excuse of not feeling well, and now she was insisting on going to the hospital for an examination. Hearing this, the girl tightly clutched Donald's sleeve as if she were about to cry, and said in fluent Cantonese urgently, "Ah Chen, I don't want to go alone, accompany me, please." Donald coaxed her. "Don't be afraid, you go first." I was a bit dazed. Even though I had lived in Hong Kong City for 10 years, my Cantonese wasn't very good. Donald rarely spoke Cantonese to me on weekdays. He always said, "Gloria, you came to Hong Kong City alone for me. This isn't your hometown. There are no people or things you're familiar with. You don't have to learn this for me. I owe you." At this moment, I suddenly realized that what he said I didn't have to learn wasn't only his past, but also his daily life. I exhaled a mouthful of foul air and said to Donald, "I'll go in first. Hurry up, I have something to talk to you about." After saying that, I walked straight in. I knew he would stay. As for how long he would stay, I didn't care. A few minutes later, Donald sat on the sofa. He seemed to be thinking about how to explain to me. In fact, it wasn't necessary. I had known this girl for a long time. She was the youngest daughter of Donald's father's close friend, Monica. She had just returned from Germany a year ago and had fallen for Donald at the first sight of him. The girl in her early 20s, when in love, sacrificed herself like a moth to a flame. In just half a year, she spent 1/3 of her family property as fuel for Donald's career. At that time, I even teased him about an old cow eating young grass and tricking the girl's assets with his looks. Now, looking at it, perhaps this was the curse of love. When someone devoted their feelings wholeheartedly, someone else would be touched. No one could resist it, just like me, who met Donald in a foreign country at the age of 17 and fell in love with him when he reached out to protect me. That's why I abandoned everything and came to Hong Kong City with him at the age of 22. Seeing him frown, I soothed him. You don't have to explain to me. Hearing this, he seemed a bit surprised, and guilt appeared on his face. Gloria, tomorrow I'll arrange for the lawyer to transfer 33.3% of the shares of the subsidiary company to your name. It's not 33.3%, Donald. You committed adultery during the marriage. I want all the shares of the subsidiary company. I took out the prepared divorce agreement from my bag and gently pushed it in front of him, looking at him. I said calmly, Donald, let's get a divorce. The brief silence was like the calm before the typhoon. Everyone knew it was false. Just waiting for the typhoon eye to accumulate and absorb enough strength, it would rush straight towards the vulnerable port city. Then, the earth would shake and the mountains would crumble, and everything would be destroyed. I saw intense emotions flash in Donald's eyes. But he was no longer the young lad who was willing to have his 3 ribs broken in order to marry me. So, in just a moment, the emotions disappeared completely. Gloria, you've thought it through. It wasn't a question, but an affirmation. I nodded, of course, otherwise, I wouldn't have come here. He paused for a moment, as if he understood. The villa at the foot of the mountain was only a distance of 1 mountain top away from the ancestral house. At that time, Donald's father was very angry about his insistence on marrying me and said that as long as he was alive, he would never recognize me as his daughter-in-law. So, in the past 10 years, I could count on one hand the number of times I had come to the villa. I didn't know if he was being clever and specifically let Monica live here, or if his father thought Monica was the daughter-in-law of his family and was qualified to live at the foot of the ancestral house. In any case, I knew he was here. I came here just for the divorce. I understand. I crossed the line. Don't worry. I'll agree to any request you make. As he said this, he reached out and touched his pocket. Clearly, he had touched it, but he didn't take out the Mont Blanc pen that he always carried with him, which I had given him. I didn't expose it and just handed him another one at the right moment. I casually tapped under the agreement and said, I've already signed it. You sign it too. You know me. I don't want what I shouldn't have. I was subtly urging him. He gave a hum, opened the pen cap, paused for a long time, and finally signed his name next to mine. After he signed, I reached out and took it and put it in the folder. A piece of paper so thin that the light could shine through it had actually carried my 10 years. After getting the divorce agreement, I stood up and walked towards the 2nd floor. When I reached the corner, I leaned over and asked him, Is the master bedroom occupied? He shook his head. No. I curved my lips and watched the dim yellow light fall on him. I remembered the first time I came to the villa. At that time, he was afraid that I wouldn't get used to the dampness at the foot of the mountain, so he brought several sets of silk beddings for changing. He refused to let others do it and carefully spread out the mattress and quilt cover layer by layer in the master bedroom. All of it was his sincere heart. It was a pity that we only stayed for one night, because the next day he took me to the ancestral house. When Donald's father saw me, he was so angry that he almost fainted. He pointed at Donald's nose and cursed, Who couldn't you marry? You had to marry her. I think you're deliberately stabbing me in the back. Seeing that Donald refused to back down, his father reached out and grabbed the expensive ivory snuff bottle on the mahogany table and smashed it hard on Donald's head. Then he picked up the thick solid golden Nanmu walking stick and directly hit Donald on the back. The dull sound lasted for a long time until his father was tired, gasping for breath, and angrily shouted at us, Get out, get out. Only then did Donald grit his teeth and stand up, his face deathly pale and almost unable to stand. He took my hand and slowly walked out. When we went to the hospital, we found out that he had his 3 ribs broken. Even though he was in so much pain that he almost fainted, in front of his father, he never let go of my hand. Until the end, he was still saying word by word, "I don't care whose daughter Gloria is. In this life, I will only marry her." But in just 10 years, his father was still alive, and our relationship ended. It was actually a good thing. It was better than us not being able to continue even after his father died. That night, Donald only stayed for half an hour and then left. I guess that Monica had probably urged him as soon as she arrived at the hospital. In fact, I really didn't like the villa at the foot of the mountain, but that night, I slept surprisingly soundly. Coincidentally, even the typhoon changed its course. At the last moment, it turned and went elsewhere, leaving Victoria Harbour calm and peaceful. However, I still didn't know if he remembered that day was our 10th wedding anniversary. Half a month later, I asked Donald to meet me at the No. 12 government building in Dublin Chai Harbour and formally filed for divorce. In the court, the lawyer said in a low voice, "Madam, he also gave you 3 luxury mansions." I looked at Donald. He was standing opposite me and nodded at me, as if saying, "Take them, I owe you." I suppressed my emotions and said to the lawyer, "I don't want the properties and cars, change them into shares, let's get this over with quickly." He nodded and went to discuss with Donald's lawyer again. Taking this opportunity, Donald walked up to me and seemed to promise, "Don't worry, you'll receive the annual dividends." I smiled. "I know, I want the shares," just because I thought of a very interesting way to play during this 1 year. When he saw me smile, he actually seemed to relax a bit and said the same words as that night. "Okay, whatever you want, I'll agree to any request you make." I didn't say anything. I just felt a bit nauseous, thanks to Donald's generosity. The property division was very quick, and I was also very satisfied with the final result. I got all the shares of Donald's company's wholly owned subsidiary, with a market value of over $1.2 billion. I also got 45% of the shares of the 3 technology companies invested by Donald's company, with a market value of about $700 million, adding the several new companies that Donald had personally selected in recent years. All in all, I took away property worth more than $3 billion from him. It wasn't a lot, but it wasn't a little either. When all the matters were settled, I finally got that certificate. I felt completely relaxed. I walked quickly along the corridor and headed outside. "Gloria, Gloria." Donald chased after me a few steps, his voice getting louder and louder. I stopped impatiently and suddenly turned around to look at him. I frowned and said, "Donald, stop calling me, it's disgusting." He was stunned for a second and finally realized that my good attitude in the past half-month was waiting for the day of the real divorce. He was silent for a long time and finally said, "I just wanted to say that you can rest assured. I'll agree to any other requests you have in the future." I smiled. A beam of light fell down along the Roman column behind Donald, pointing straight at him. It was as if fate was playing a trick on me, asking me, "Gloria, don't you really want to consider it again? There's still a ray of light in him." I didn't hesitate and nodded, saying, "Okay, Donald, then my request is that you are never allowed to appear in front of me again in the future." For a moment, I saw some cracks appear on his face. He looked as if he had been punched in the face, and his face was deathly pale, and I turned around easily and raised my foot to walk outside. At this moment, the sun was at its highest point, making Queen's Road shine with golden light. Compared with that beam of light, there was a vast expanse of sunshine here. The news of my divorce from Donald spread quickly. I didn't have to think to know who had done it. Monica had been pestering him for a year. Finally, she managed to get pregnant, and then I took the initiative to divorce. If she didn't spread this news to the moon, it would mean she was useless. However, I didn't expect that she was even more stupid than I thought. As soon as I came out, there was a circle of media surrounding the door. They were pointing their cameras and microphones at me, chattering like sparrows in a frying pan. "Miss Gloria, is it true that you divorced Donald? Is it because you didn't have a child in these 10 years? Ms. Gloria, according to the rumors, because you couldn't have a child, Donald's father has never recognized your identity, right? Will your divorce affect the future development of Donald's company? Were you kicked out? Ms. Gloria, tell us about it. Ms. Gloria, Ms. Gloria." I was too lazy to respond. Just as I was about to ask the bodyguards to stop these people, I saw Monica walking towards me with her belly. Her voice had a unique tone, and she quickly attracted the attention of the reporters. "Ah, you guys are so mean. She's already in so much pain because she can't have a child. Now she's divorced and is like a homeless dog, and you're still asking all these questions." Those reporters, being so shrewd, immediately turned their attention and said, "Monica, is the baby in your belly Donald's little grandson of the company? Monica, did Donald divorce Amos? Gloria, for you and the baby in your belly. Monica, when will you and Donald have your wedding?" Monica smiled brightly and waved her hand, saying, "Soon, soon, whether it's a boy or a girl. It's Chen's first child." Seeing that my expression didn't change, Monica raised her eyebrows, walked closer to me, and said in a low voice, "Stop pretending. If you want to cry, just cry. You can't blame others. Who asked you to be unable to have a child and unable to keep your man?" I didn't say anything. I looked at her and raised my hand to slap her. After a crisp slap, Monica's left face turned red. She looked at me furiously and said, "How dare you hit me?" I smiled and said, "Why don't I dare? The baby in your belly is 3 months old, and I just divorced Donald a few days ago. This is ironclad evidence of his infidelity during the marriage. If you say one more word, I'll make sure your child is born with the label of an illegitimate child." I slowly spoke in her tone. After I finished speaking, she gritted her teeth and glared at me, with deep hatred in her eyes. I didn't understand. I had already divorced Donald, and she would soon get what she wanted. Why did she hate me? Soon, Donald's car stopped by the roadside. He pushed open the car door and walked straight over. The reporters tried to swarm around him again, but were dispersed to the side by the bodyguards. He looked at me, and his eyes darkened. He had lost a lot of weight in just a few days. His custom-made suit actually looked a bit empty on him. When Monica saw him, she immediately looked aggrieved and rushed over to grab his arm, but he pushed her away directly. He walked over quickly and asked me, "Are you okay?" I raised my eyebrows. What was going on? But I still said politely, "I'm fine. I'm leaving now." After saying that, I prepared to walk in the other direction. Monica got angry immediately and said, "Donald, I'm still pregnant with your child. You're asking her if she's okay." She leaned in with the face that I had slapped and said pitifully, "Look, she even hit me. How dare she hit me?" Donald frowned and said, looking down, "Gloria has always had a gentle personality. What did you say or do to provoke her? Can't you be more sensible?" Monica was scolded by him and stood there stunned, and he raised his foot and chased after me. I didn't give a definite answer and asked, "Is there anything else?" He paused and said, "Are you leaving Hong Kong City?" "This morning, I brought a group of accountants from Jingju to take care of several companies." He should have guessed that I was going to leave. I gave a hum. He asked again, "When will you come back?" Before I could speak, Monica let out a scream. Apparently, she was so angry with Donald's words that she was stunned and only reacted now. I smiled, and my eyes flashed as I said, "On the day Monica gives birth, I'll come to give a gift, Donald." At that time, "How about I give you a big gift?" He lowered his head and remained silent, his emotions not right. Over these years, I had hardly seen him look so gloomy. This reminded me of our first meeting. At that time, I had just arrived in Los Angeles and wasn't familiar with the place at all. I was often laughed at as a bumpkin. They stuck chewing gum in my hair and smeared thick glue on my chair. It was a kind of bullying that was neither too big nor too small, and the teacher didn't care, until one day, several boys laughed and said they would take me to a fun place. They dragged me along, and at the last second, Donald stood in front of me. He looked up at those people and said coldly, "Fuck off." In the end, there was naturally a fight. He got injured, and his eyes were still gloomy. Looking at me, he said, "From now on, you follow me." I carefully applied medicine to him and nodded when I heard that. In just an instant, I was struck. After that day, I became his follower. I also learned that he had been left alone abroad at the age of 15. The 2 years abroad had given him a severe case of depression. At this moment, I felt a bit familiar. It seemed that he was having another episode. But I didn't want to care anymore. After all, we were already divorced. I just pretended not to notice. A few seconds later, he looked at me and said, "Okay, then you must come." A few days later, I returned to Jingju. The moment I landed at the airport, I actually felt a bit nervous about going back to my hometown. I remembered that at the age of 22, I graduated from UCLA and followed Donald to Hong Kong City. My parents didn't have much of a reaction at first, just complaining that a grown daughter would leave home, but not long after, when my parents learned about Donald's identity, they almost desperately ordered me to return to Jingju immediately. At that time, my father was as angry as Donald's father and was almost driven to death by anger. He just told me to come back and not regret it after really killing him with anger. I refused and didn't understand why they didn't allow us to be together, until Donald had his 3 ribs broken, was hospitalized for more than half a year, and still insisted on marrying me. My mother was then moved. She half forced and half persuaded my father to fly to Hong Kong City and told me an old story. It turned out that both my father and Donald's father had once been stowaways who made it to Hong Kong City. The two of them had encountered several arrests and detentions together. In the most dangerous situation, Donald's father almost died in prison. It was my father who gave up his water and food to save his life, but his kindness wasn't repaid. During a major search, Donald's father reported my father. Because of this report, my father lost the possibility of staying in Hong Kong City. However, Donald's father stayed and even became wealthy. After that, my father was unwilling to give up and turned back to the capital. After struggling through hardships, he finally achieved what he had today. After learning about Donald's identity, my father refused to relent. After all, with Donald's father being like that, how could Donald be a good person? Later, my parents wanted to take me away, but I didn't want to leave. In the end, it almost led to a complete break with my parents. 10 years had passed, and looking at the present, whether it was Donald's betrayal of infidelity during the marriage, or the final result of our divorce and going our separate ways, it could only be said that what goes around comes around, and I could be considered to have brought trouble on myself. Gloria, Gloria, a voice that was both strange and slightly familiar sounded. I looked up and was a bit surprised. I didn't expect that he would come to pick me up. The man walking towards me was tall and thin, his well-fitted dark woolen coat reached his knees, and the black turtleneck underneath made him look particularly abstinent. His same-colored brushed suit pants were straight and wrinkle-free, and he was wearing a pair of derby shoes, exuding an air of scholarly refinement. I waved and smiled, greeting him. Julius, long time no see. Julius was the son of my mother's friend. He was the same age as me. He had been a top student since birth and had never gotten second place. He came from a family of scholars for 3 generations, with a good background. It was said that he was currently teaching at Peking University, mainly teaching psychology. He was happy to see me. He reached out to take my suitcase and then handed me the hand warmer that was already warm in his pocket, saying, "It's very cold, right? It's only the beginning of December, and it has already snowed once in Jingju." Compared to Hong Kong City, Jingju was indeed much colder. I nodded. Where are my parents? In the past 2 years, as my parents and I got older, our relationship had improved a lot compared to earlier years. However, after all, I had broken my parents' hearts in the past. If they didn't come to pick me up, I understood. They're all outside, it's too cold, so I didn't let them get out of the car. You'll be able to see them soon. Julius's voice was very pleasant. His standard Beijing accent had a bit of the straightforwardness of northerners. I missed this accent more than the Cantonese that often had twists and turns. A few minutes later, I got into the car. I saw my parents sitting side by side in the back seat. My heart skipped a few beats. In just a second, my nose felt sour, and I wanted to cry. Before I could speak, my mother leaned over first. After staring at me for a few moments, her eyes turned red. "Gloria, you've lost weight. During this period, haven't you been eating properly?" After not seeing each other for a long time, the first thing she said was that I had lost weight. I pursed my lips and called out, "Mom," all the grievances and the disappointment that had been accumulated for I didn't know how long poured out the moment I saw my mother. 5 years of passionate love and 10 years of marriage had wasted half of my life. How could I not hate? But in Hong Kong City, I didn't have a haven. I could only hold up a small piece of sky for myself. Fortunately, this was Jingju, and I still had my parents. My mother responded and wiped away a tear. My mother and I looked at each other with tearful eyes in someone else's car. "Okay, what are you crying for? It's not a big deal. you'll make Xiao Jiao laugh." A few seconds later, my father coughed softly. Although his voice was a bit unnatural, it was still full of energy. Julius raised his eyebrows and smiled, saying, "Uncle you. I didn't bring my ears out today, I can't hear anything." With this sentence, the sad atmosphere just now was somewhat dispelled. I looked at my father, opened my mouth. "Dad." My father gave a hum and looked at me deeply. "It's good that you're back. Just come back." In the evening, my parents and I returned to Wangjing. Julius had classes tomorrow, so he drove back. This house was the one I lived in before going abroad. Now my parents had already bought a bigger and more luxurious house in a better location. However, since I was back, I still wanted to live here. After taking a shower, I snuggled up next to my mother and said, "Mom, can I sleep with you tonight?" My father snorted, "As soon as you come back, you take over your mother." "It's really," I smiled and joked, rebelling against the heavens. My father was taken aback by my words but also laughed. My mother couldn't bear to refuse me and nodded, saying, "Okay, we mother and daughter can talk. Let your father sleep in the second bedroom." I smiled softly, feeling truly happy. After my mother and I turned off the lights and lay down, she still couldn't help it and asked me in a low voice, "You and just got divorced?" As if she was afraid that mentioning the name would make me sad, my mother spoke vaguely. I gave a hum. "Divorced, and I got a lot of money from him." My mother pinched me. "You child, husband and wife are originally one. What's his is yours. Moreover, he's really out of line. He should have been made to leave the marriage with nothing. Those from his family are completely rotten to the core." Listening to my mother's almost indignant scolding, I smiled and said, "Yeah, Mom, you and Dad are really good at judging people. I was just blind. I regret wasting so much time. If only I had, if I had left with my parents, would the result have been different?" As soon as the words fell, my mother fell silent. It took a long time for her to say, "Everyone has been blinded by love at some point. It's not a waste. There are no wasted steps in life. Every step counts. It's precisely because of these more than 10 years that you are who you are now." I shed a tear in the dark. My mother didn't blame me, but I felt that I was really stupid. I was so certain that Donald would always only love me. A few seconds later, my mother got up and clicked her tongue, saying, "I think Julius is a good one. Although he got married and divorced, that child." I was amused. The topic had changed too quickly. "Mom, I know Julius is a good person, but you can't just force it. He doesn't like me." "Who said that? He has liked you for many years. If you hadn't chased after him to Hong Kong City and gotten married, he wouldn't have been so miserable as to listen to his mother and get married too. He divorced in half a year and hasn't remarried yet." I paused, in my mind. I recalled that during the years I had known Julius, he did like to follow me around. At the age of 15, I rode a motorcycle out of the alley and couldn't brake in time, crashing into a bridge pier head-on. My knee hit the ground, bleeding. Without thinking, Julius threw away his bike and rushed over to pick me up. The man who was usually as calm as a log was now running around like a headless chicken. He mumbled, "Don't be afraid, don't be afraid, let's go to the hospital." "Where's the hospital?" "The hospital." I wanted to laugh a bit. When I came to my senses, I saw my mother staring at me. I turned around and said, "There's nothing like that, don't worry about it. I'm not planning to get married again. Let's go to sleep." My mother gave an "oh," and before going to sleep, she still told me to think about it again. It had been a week of rainy weather. Even though the typhoon didn't pass through, it still had an impact. In a private hospital in the center of Hong Kong City, Monica's voice was sharp and piercing. "I don't care, find him immediately. I want to see Donald. He can't treat me like this." Donald rubbed his forehead. He just felt that since Gloria left, he had been getting more and more tired. "Don't make a noise, I'm here." He spoke at the door of the ward. As soon as Monica saw him, tears streamed down her face. She held her belly and got out of bed, not even bothering to put on her shoes. "Ah Chen, I know I was wrong. I shouldn't have made everyone know that you and Gloria got divorced. I didn't know it would affect Donald's company." That day, Monica made a scene at the entrance of Donald's company. It spread quickly, and soon the stock of Donald's company's headquarters kept falling. Donald knew in his heart that this matter wasn't entirely due to the media's hype. It was Gloria who took action. After she returned to Jingju, she sold all her shares to Guangting. Guangting was her father's enterprise. And its influence was even more astonishing than he had imagined. In just a week, Gloria used Guangting to force Donald's company into a corner. If he didn't want Donald's company's subsidiary and several other companies to completely become Guangting's branch in Hong Kong City, he could only buy back the shares at a high price. If he didn't buy them back, with Guangting's ability, it would soon acquire all the companies, and then it would be Donald's company's turn. If Donald's company changed its ownership to our family, his father would probably die of anger immediately. Donald took a deep breath of the cold air. So the interesting way she mentioned was to make him, and Donald's company, sacrifice themselves like Monica had done in the past year, burning their assets as fuel for Guangting. What a steady, accurate, and ruthless move. Then, he shook his head, thinking that it was indeed like her. He still remembered that she was only 17 years old that year. After getting familiar with the environment following him, she started to dominate the situation. In a competition, she single-handedly withstood the pressure from 14 teams and several mentors who looked down on the Chinese, using the last $500 they had as startup capital. In just half a month, she successively took over the entire assets of 4 teams. Then, together with him, they repelled the remaining 10 teams. Starting from $500, it grew to $5,000, and then to a full $79,624. In just 3 months, they won, and they won completely. Later, she donated all the assets she had earned back to the country. Just thinking of this, he couldn't help but want to laugh. In those years, in that foreign land where there were only the two of them, his Gloria was by his side no matter when. She was like a little sun, melting away all the malice. When she heard his argument with his father, she would hug him to comfort him, after learning that he had been alone abroad, once being ostracized, despised, bullied, and isolated. When he had suffered from unwarranted insults and scolding, she would shed tears of heartache, and those past experiences that almost drove him to the brink of collapse were all resolved one by one after she came. Even when he hurt himself during a bout of depression, she would rush up, hug him, and keep saying, "I will always be with you." It was Gloria who brought him back to life. Ah Chen. The violent shaking brought him back to his senses. Monica pouted unhappily and said, "What were you thinking about? Did you hear what I said? My dad asked when we're going to get married." Donald pushed Monica's hand away. Get married? He would only have one wife in his life. A few seconds later, it was as if he had figured something out. Everything he had originally belonged to Gloria. If she wanted it, he would be more than willing to kneel down and offer it to her, since she wanted to play now. Then what was wrong with playing the beacon fires to amuse the Lord's trick for her? Alright, I still have things to do, stop making a fuss. After saying that, Donald turned around and left, leaving Monica shouting hoarsely behind. In the speeding car, Donald frowned tightly, looking at the video. Gloria's parents were looking at her with smiles in their eyes, and beside her sat a tall and straight man. He had seen this man in Gloria's photo album from her childhood. He remembered that his name was Julius. It seemed that in just half a month, Gloria's parents seemed to have already planned to find her a new marriage partner, and this man obviously liked Gloria very much. A few seconds later, Donald closed his eyes and thought, he had been wrong. He had thought that even after the divorce, he still had the ability to keep her by his side. Although he signed the divorce agreement, he just wanted to ease the hatred in her heart. After all, they had been together for more than 10 years. She was so soft-hearted that she would always forgive him. But now, he suddenly felt a bit panicked. In fact, whether it was Guangting or Jingju, what he was most afraid of was still her parents. 10 years ago, Gloria was willing to abandon everything and go to Hong Kong City for him. But now that she had returned to Jingju, it was probably impossible to let her go south alone again. When he opened his eyes again, determination flashed in Donald's eyes. He took out his phone and made a call. Release the shares of Donald's company. Book me the earliest flight ticket to Jingju. The sooner, the better. Sister Wei, good morning. There's a good piece of news and an even better piece of news. Which one do you want to hear first? During this period, I had joined Guangting. And no one could say no to me. The person talking to me now was the secretary my father had found for me. She was 25 years old, with a bachelor's and master's degree from Peking University. She was recruited into Guangting right after graduation. It was a bit of a waste of her talent to have her be my secretary. I smiled and said, "Hear the good news first." Her eyes blinked. "Mr. Julius sent flowers again this morning. He said he just happened to pass by, but I don't think so. The style of the flower bouquet is like the ones wrapped by that old store in the west of the city. TSK. It's dozens of kilometers back and forth. Only then did I see a bunch of flowers placed on the large office desk. They were pink with a hint of tender white. Not many, just 11. Symbolizing faith and waiting." I raised my eyebrows and asked calmly, "Then what's the even better news?" The secretary became more serious and quickened her speech speed. "This morning, news came from Hong Kong City that Donald's company has released shares. It's just the right amount for us to acquire all of them." Seeing that I didn't say anything, she restrained some of her smile. She asked carefully, "Do you want to acquire them?" After all, I had been married to Donald for 10 years. So it was normal for the secretary not to be sure of my thoughts. I looked up and raised my eyebrows. "Why not? Who would turn down making money?" The secretary nodded. "I understand." I tilted my chin. "Go ahead." After she turned around, I took out my phone and sent a message to Julius. "Thank you for the flowers. Would you do me the honor of letting me treat you to dinner tonight?" Almost immediately, there were 2 beeps, and the reply came from the other side, "It's my pleasure." Julius arrived first in the evening. He reserved an inner private room and was pouring tea. "Sorry, there was a bit of traffic on the way." I put down my bag and sat in the seat to his right. Although it was a private room for 2 people, it was spacious enough for 5 or 6 people to sit. I deliberately chose the seat next to him. Julius's hands paused slightly, and he looked up at me. I had specifically gone back to change my clothes and put on makeup. I had changed the lake blue silk shirt and black suit pants I wore during the day into a form-fitting round-neck dress with a side slit. Knowing that he liked woody fragrances, I also specifically changed my perfume. Julius put down the shisha teapot in his hand and smiled, asking, "Are there other guests?" I raised my eyebrows. Can't a woman dress up for someone she likes? Even though I didn't have too many emotions towards him, I still had to admit, he was really smart, and it was simple and easy to get along with smart people. Especially since he liked me, so he was even more considerate. Seeing that I didn't admit it, he didn't ask any further, he just told the waiter that they could serve the dishes. We chatted briefly. We talked from the north to the south, from domestic matters to foreign affairs. Suddenly, someone pushed the door open and entered. The voice carried a bit of weariness, as if coming from afar. "Sorry, all the private rooms are full. I wonder if it's convenient to share a table." I don't know where Donald learned to follow local customs. He even knew about sharing a table. I didn't even look up. "It's not convenient. Get out." He smiled and walked over to sit next to me. He glanced at the hem of my dress, and his face darkened a bit. "A guest is a guest. Gloria, I've been on a plane for several hours. I'm really tired," he said in a low voice, and his cheeky attitude was exactly the same as in the old days. "Sorry, I wonder if Mr. Julius minds." Donald seemed to have just seen Julius. He asked with a forced smile. Julius looked at me and smiled, saying, "I don't mind, however, we've already finished eating. If Mr. Liu is hungry, you can order a few more dishes at this table. These are just leftovers after all, and it's easy to have indigestion if you eat them." I raised my eyebrows. Julius was more aggressive than I had imagined. After saying that, he stood up and reached out his hand to me. I didn't hesitate to take his hand and stood up with his help. The 2 of us were snuggled up, and the distance between us had long exceeded the safe limit for friends. In an instant, Donald's face darkened, and he reached out to stop us, saying, "Gloria, come home with me." I couldn't help but laugh and asked back, "Home? Which home? This is my home. Do you want me to go back to Hong Kong City with you? That's your home, not mine." Hearing my words, his back straightened instantly, his face turned pale, and he even seemed to have trouble catching his breath. After a few seconds, he said, "I'm sorry for you. What do you want?" "Donald's company. As long as you come home with me, I'm willing." "Donald, I find that you have a short memory for important things." I interrupted him. "You seem to have forgotten that we're already divorced. I won't go back, and I won't accept any of your attempts to please me." He pursed his lips. Seeing my determination, most of the color drained from his face. It was as if he had been severely injured. I frowned slightly, and suddenly remembered, the robbery we encountered in Los Angeles. I still remembered that it happened in the second year I was in Los Angeles. Those people were very fierce, as if they had come prepared. They blocked several Asians and asked us to give them money, take off our clothes, and hand over all our valuable items. Donald protected me with his body and stared at them fiercely. He whispered in my ear, "Stay close to me." I nodded repeatedly, afraid that if I wasn't careful, both he and I would lose our lives there. A few minutes later, he found the right opportunity to fight with one of them, who knew that the man had a firearm. The 2 gunshots scared me out of my wits, but his face remained unchanged, and he just said to me, "Stay close to me, run, Gloria, don't be afraid, follow me." I ran as fast as I could and followed him out. When we reached a safe place, I realized that he had been shot in the arm and shoulder, and he didn't mention it at all, afraid that I would be scared. Fortunately, the gangsters used old guns that had been passed around many times, and the bullets didn't have hard shell casings. Otherwise, his left hand would probably have been crippled. I cried bitterly, afraid that he would die. Tears couldn't stop flowing down. At that time, his face was as pale as it was now, but he still didn't forget to comfort me. "Stop crying, you look so ugly, like a little tabby cat." Now, it was probably impossible to go back to that time. I didn't want to be controlled by past emotions anymore. I looked at him and said, "I remember that on the day we got divorced, you said that you would agree to any request I had in the future." Donald's face changed, and he tried to stop me, but it was too late. "I want you to never appear in front of me again in the future." I said this sentence twice, each time more seriously, each time more resolutely. After saying that, I leaned against Julius and said softly, "Donald, I'm going to give it a try with someone else. Don't come to find me again. I'm going to start a new life." In an instant, it was as if the earth was shaking and the mountains were crumbling, and everything was being destroyed. At this moment, Donald was like a vulnerable city ravaged by a typhoon. When he blinked, a tear actually fell. He opened his mouth, and I could only vaguely hear a few words. "Don't do this, don't treat me like this, Gloria." He gave up everything and sacrificed Donald's company, just to beg for my forgiveness and take me home, but I was holding someone else's hand and telling him that I was going to start a new life. I didn't look at him anymore and turned around with Julius and left. I knew that he had always been gambling on my soft heart, both when we got divorced and when he had an episode of his illness. But what had I done wrong, to be treated like this by him? I was unwilling, and I hated him. I hated that he had treated me so well in the past, and I hated that he had destroyed everything now. Donald fell ill. He was originally stubborn. His extreme mental illness was triggered by me and relapsed. He was in a daze all day long, and it had become so serious that he couldn't eat on his own. He could only rely on those cold medical devices to maintain his vital signs. Donald's company was also in chaos. Guangting took the opportunity to acquire a lot of shares and became the second largest shareholder, second only to Donald. I heard that after Donald's father learned about it, he couldn't hold on and was sent to the emergency room. Both father and son were seriously ill. If no one stepped in, Donald's company was likely to go bankrupt. In the end, it was Monica who begged in front of my father. She used her life and the baby in her belly to blackmail and force her family to invest money and effort. She was really a silly girl, but also, the love of parents for their children knows no bounds. In less than a month, she almost lost her life. But Donald's company was still on the verge of collapse. It was Guangting. It was me, who had secretly and openly acquired all the market shares and reaped huge profits. Making a mistake once could be said to be being blinded by love. Making the same mistake a second time was extremely foolish. Just as Donald's company was on the verge of collapsing completely and becoming the nourishment for Guangting, and Donald was on the verge of dying, Donald's father came to Jingju and begged in front of my parents. He had just come out of the hospital, with white hair, trembling, as if he didn't have much time left. At this moment, in front of my father, he bent over, looking more than 20 years older. A few seconds later, he actually knelt down and shouted hoarsely, "Yu Ting, if you want Donald's company, if you want my life, if you want me to kneel down and beg you, to apologize to you, I'm sorry, you can do whatever you want. I was wrong, I betrayed my trust, and I'm worse than a pig or a dog, but my son, he truly loves your daughter. I only beg you to let her go and see him. It was me. I said I had cancer and needed my grandson's bone marrow to prolong my life. I also drugged a Chen and that girl from the Shu family so that they had a night together. It's all my fault. A Chen has never loved anyone else. He just wanted that child to save my life. His words were full of regret, and each word seemed to be stained with blood. His eyes were full of fear of losing his son. It was so different from the way he had left Donald alone abroad for those years and had broken his 3 ribs, even though I knew that this might be a father's love. But I still felt it was extremely disgusting. Even though Donald's father knelt down and begged, my father didn't promise on my behalf. He wanted me to make the decision myself. He just had someone send Donald's father to the hospital where Donald was in order to find the best doctor. I knew that my father was afraid that if I wanted to turn back and be with Donald again, his father must not die because of me. Parents who love their children will plan for their future. But my mother couldn't bear it. She covered her chest and kept asking me, "Gloria, what do you think?" I exhaled a mouthful of foul air and said, "I'll go and see him." In the hospital, Donald was rarely awake. He had just seen his father, with white hair. There was no trace of the former hero left. It was all his fault. One false step had led to eternal regret, hurting himself and his father. At this moment, he still didn't know that his father's cancer was fake. He only knew that soon. Gloria was going to come and see him. Half an hour later, I knocked on the door of the ward. Donald's eyes were filled with surprise, but when he saw Julius behind me, his expression darkened. However, he didn't dare to act high and mighty anymore. He half relied on his body and said, "Gloria, you came to see me." I nodded and said to him, "I'm here to tell you 2 things. If you can pull through, then live. If you can't, then it's okay to die." Donald's face was pale, but he still forced a smile and said, "I can pull through, as long as you're by my side." I didn't respond and was straightforward. "Your father doesn't have cancer. You don't have to worry about him dying of the disease. However, it's not certain either. Who knows, anything could happen." He only froze for a second before reacting. His lips trembled slightly as he said, "So, that night, I gave a hum. Your dad drugged you." He lowered his head, looking as if in pain and also as if helpless. I continued, "Fortunately, your dad doesn't have cancer. Even if he did, Monica's child couldn't save him. That child isn't yours. In our 10-year marriage, the one who couldn't have children wasn't me." His face turned even paler, and he quickly understood the purpose of my saying these 2 things. Looking at me, he said, "Gloria, I'm not." "I know," I interrupted him. "Of course, you didn't cheat on me with Monica because I couldn't have children. You were just set up by your father and believed him. You wanted to keep the bone marrow to save him. But, Donald, I don't believe you're really that stupid. So stupid that you would believe your father when he said he had cancer." I looked up at him. "You wanted to save your father, but you also wanted a child of your own. Even if you don't admit it, I know you too well. You didn't check and confirm whether your father really had cancer because you wanted to take this opportunity to keep this child. You were letting things take their course. You were waiting for the child to be born and make me accept it. After all, in your heart, I couldn't have children, right? Donald, you not only betrayed me in our marriage, but you also insulted my intelligence, despised my personality, and even let down my love for you. So, my divorce from you wasn't out of pique. I was serious. Do you understand? I didn't expect that." As soon as I finished speaking, Donald fainted. Within half an hour, he was issued a critical condition notice twice. I stood outside the ICU with a frown, looking at Julius who had come with me. A flash of inspiration hit me, and I asked, "You're an expert in psychology. What do you think?" He nodded. "It's true, mental illnesses are the most difficult to treat. If the patient has no will to live, their organs will soon die. There have been many previous cases in clinical trials. What you just said was enough to make him lose all hope and want to die immediately. I came here just to help you see if it was real or not. I think he might be dying soon." I was silent for a few seconds and then asked, He shook his head. "It doesn't count, it's not even manslaughter." I gave an O and didn't say anything more. I just thought that Julius was really good at understanding people's minds. Another hour passed. Donald was finally saved. The doctor said, "Mr. Liu has a very low will to live. It's hard to say how much he will recover in the future." I have to admit that, in fact, only at this moment, most of the hatred in my heart truly disappeared, And at this moment, hearing the doctor say that Donald had a very low will to live, I finally let go of it all. Forget it, let's just let go of myself and him as well. After that day, I never went to the hospital again. Never seeing each other again might be the best ending for me and Donald. As for his illness, there are professional doctors and psychologists to treat it. We are no longer 17 years old. And we are no longer in a foreign country like Los Angeles. He doesn't have to protect me anymore, and I don't have to shed tears for him either. Later, I heard from others, Donald's father didn't make it after all and passed away from illness, and Donald finally became a bit more sober because of his father's death. After returning to Hong Kong City, he sold Donald's company and went to Los Angeles. As for Monica, not only did she not wait for the wedding, but she also had a miscarriage and was left with lifelong illnesses. Only after the Shu family was dragged down did she start to regret it. And all these things have nothing to do with me anymore. In the blink of an eye, it was February, and the Spring Festival was approaching. Jingju was filled with the atmosphere of the new year everywhere. Although I grew up here, when I think about it, I haven't really walked around this city properly for more than 10 years, so I suggested going for a walk around. However, my parents had been in Jingju for a long time. One of them waved their hand and refused, saying, "Not interested." The other pushed me and said, "Ask Julius to accompany you." I was just thinking that it was better to forget it. If really necessary, I could just go for a walk by myself. But I didn't expect that Julius had already received an order from my mother and was waiting downstairs in Wangjing the next day. During those days, we went to many places. Most of them were all kinds of alleys. Everywhere was filled with the unique relaxation and leisure of Jingju. The 100-year-old Chinese ash trees on both sides of the alleys swayed their golden leaves, and all that could be seen were the saihadolas with blue bricks and black tiles. There were grandpas carrying bird cages, humming and singing Beijing operas. Walking through, there was a red persimmon tree planted by an unknown family. The tree was full of heart-shaped persimmons that looked like little lanterns. They were plump, and no one picked them. They were left for the birds flying in the air to peck at. With a splat, they would fall to the ground. In Hong Kong City, every inch of land is precious. Even on the peak of Victoria, there is no trace of leisure. Everyone is rushing forward and has forgotten the path they came from. I was so fascinated by that persimmon tree that I didn't come to my senses until Julius told me to wait and said he would be right back. I gave a hum and told him to do as he pleased, and I walked slowly, waiting for him and continuing to look around. A few minutes later, Julius held a simple bouquet made of persimmons and handed it to me. The fragrant smell of the fruit mixed with the smell of stir-fried peanuts wafted over. On it, there was also a piece of square white paper with the words, "Good things happen." I raised my eyebrows and showed some surprise. "Did you pick them from someone else's house?" He nodded. "I saw you looking at it for a long time, so I went to find that family. When they heard that I wanted to give it to a girl, they were very happy. They used a long pole to cut quite a few down. The peanuts were also freshly stir-fried. They smell really good." I couldn't put it down and looked at it from all angles, saying, "This suits my taste much more than that bunch of Luotian flowers." After I said that, Julius paused. I also realized that I might have offended him and apologized, saying, "Sorry, I didn't mean that." He interrupted me and said, "Gloria, I know what you're worried about. Over the years, I wasn't really waiting for you. It's just that it's too hard to find someone who truly understands me, so I've been single and unmarried all this time." I looked at him and knew that he understood the meaning behind my words. Compared with the faith and waiting symbolized by the Luotian flowers, the ordinary life represented by persimmons and peanuts was what I wanted now. I loved too miserably and painfully and really didn't want to experience that again. I was just about to speak but found that I didn't know how to express myself. Should I say, "I really have no feelings for you, even if you say you haven't been waiting for me all these years. I still feel pressured," or should I say, "No matter what you do, as long as you have the intention of pursuing me, I will feel a bit uncomfortable." But I had just used him not long ago and said that I wanted to start a new life. How could I explain this? A few seconds later, he seemed to see what I was thinking. Looking at me, he said seriously, "Friends, just friends, among friends, isn't it only right to help each other?" He was so decisive and knew people's minds so well. He simply and clearly laid out the very thing I was most concerned about. even though I knew that this might not be his most sincere thought. But he was willing to say directly that we were just friends and firmly promised not to cross the line. He was willing to give me time and space and also protected my sensitive and awkward heart. I was really grateful. After a moment, I smiled and said, "Thank you." He nodded and turned to walk in front of me. It seemed that he was going to take me to walk around Jingju City some more, and I followed behind him, feeling relaxed and even a bit expectant, not only for the time ahead but also for the future. Although a white head can't be replaced by snow, meeting each other is already a great blessing. But if we really have a future, then some things can also develop naturally and we can get along as we like. Let's talk about it later. Donald's side story. After my father passed away from illness, I brought him back to Hong Kong City and buried him with my mother. My mother passed away in an accident when I was 15 years old. She left suddenly, causing my father to fall into great pain. Whenever he saw me, he would think of my mother, so he chose to send me abroad. I once thought, if I hadn't met Gloria 2 years later, would I have died in an accident just like my mother? Fortunately, I had Gloria, but then, I lost her. After returning to Hong Kong City, I became much more sober. What pained me the most was that I found that the whole of Hong Kong City was filled with our memories. She was here, facing me day and night, and we lived together for 10 years. I don't know what clouded my mind, that I actually lost her. I only know that I brought all this upon myself, how much she loved me, enduring 10 years of gossip for me. But I was actually greedy. When I had her, I still wanted a child of my own. I couldn't stay in Hong Kong City any longer, so I sold Donald's company. I also couldn't set foot in Jingju anymore. She said that she didn't want to see me again and that she was going to start a new life. After thinking it over and over again, I crossed the ocean and returned to Los Angeles. It seemed that only here was there something that could support me for the rest of my life. One day, I returned to the UCLA campus and sat under the big tree that we often went to for a long time. When I stood up, my feet were a bit numb. I hunched over to massage my calves. Suddenly, I saw a line of Chinese characters. It had been many years, but I could still vaguely make out what was written. At that moment, I was in so much pain that I could hardly straighten up. I coughed for a long time until I coughed up a dark black blood clot before I could catch my breath. I knew that I didn't have much time left. I looked at that